Good evening, and welcome to week 6. And this is going to be Comprehension Part 2. And we're going to get to look at a couple different extremes with comprehension tonight. But before we get started, I wanted to address at least one question that someone had asked, and that was, who can Equipping Minds help? And the answer to that is really everyone who has a brain. And I say that a little in jest, but we have found that to be the case. You heard me mention the work of Dr. Reuven Feuerstein a few weeks ago. And one thing that Feuerstein has proven in over 2,000 research studies is that the brain can be changed, regardless of age. Regardless of age. Did you hear me say regardless of age? And numerous learning challenges, developmental disorders, Parkinson's, dementia, post-concussion syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome, any learning disability. But when we are talking about change and the plasticity of the brain, we are not talking about moving everybody to perfection or that everybody has equal abilities. We know that as we even look in our family, or as we look in our circle of friends, if you look in your workplace, wherever you are, that we all have different strengths and challenge areas. But as we're looking at cognitive functions, at cognitive abilities, and we spent the first 2 weeks really looking at processing and talking about auditory processing and visual processing. That is a refresher that we have to be able to process what we hear accurately. And I mentioned that we actually use sound therapy, a music type of therapy that can bring rehabilitation to the ears, to that auditory system. We also use the phonics phone, and I had put this up and showed you guys this, and this is just some PVC pipe, and this allows us to go in and take this up to the right ear of a student, and we do that because of the connection to our main language center. And I had a parent who's trained in our program meet with a fellow parent a couple nights ago. And they were going to look at Equipping Minds. And before she met with them, I said, I want you to do one thing for me. Whenever you give her directions, use the phonics phone. Because this young lady is a little older, and when the mother did that, and she could put the phonics phone in, make sure that the young girl was understanding the directions, her language improved, her ability to follow the directions actually surprised her parents. And so they're very excited about starting Equipping Minds with her. But you always have to make sure that someone is hearing things correctly. And one way you can tell that is, can they repeat what they hear? And so sometimes we think it's cute when a child says aghetti instead of spaghetti, but then that pattern can be formed in the brain. And so if you have students who seem to reverse numbers that they might hear, that might say, what did you say? Can you say that again? Maybe they're sitting behind you in the car, which is usually the case. And you may not realize that they really are not hearing you. Now, do children disobey? Absolutely. But we need to also make sure they really did hear what we said. Now, that's also where we talked about the importance of saying, I see you when you're giving directions. What do you see yourself doing? And letting them say that back. That's another way to check to see if they've heard you correctly. But that auditory processing also greatly impacts your comprehension when you're hearing a story. And so we talked last week about that ability to make images, to make a movie, to picture things in our mind. And we looked at the picture of our little boy in bed and the little boy in the basket, and talked through Aristotle's 10 categories. Even though I had talked about the little boy with the red pajamas, one thing, the 10th category really is clothing and accessories, that idea. And so we are always, I think maybe more so as women, we're thinking of clothing. Men think more of accessories, of what somebody is carrying with them, so to speak. But that auditory processing and how crucial that is. Now, also that visual processing. Are they seeing the same thing that we're seeing? And so even when you're working on reading with your student and they're maybe having some challenges with reading, even a phrase I'll use is, okay, so read what you see. Okay? Read what you see. And it can be amazing how even those words, tell me what you see. What letters do you see? And the importance of that. So as we're doing these exercises and you were working on the processing and you're putting up your blink cards or your set cards or your deck of cards or anything, and you're seeing, can they tell you the number? Are they seeing the color accurately? Are they seeing the shapes and how that visual processing? And then you're also seeing that visual processing from a tracking perspective. And if you're tracking, when you're reading, we all know if we skip a line, all of a sudden our movie goes blank, so to speak. And it's like, well, wait a minute, I must have missed something. And so when we're doing these exercises and you're reading your animals and reading your numbers, you also might notice if they ever skip a line. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is we looked at is our working memory and that ability to hold on to multiple pieces of information. And as we're looking at that, with looking at the ability to hold on to numbers, to visualize letters for reading and spelling, to visualize the images, I got to respond to a couple folks on the chat with Facebook last week, just saying, please, 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 with the presidents, please forget that they're the U.S. presidents. If you're in a different country, but really look at learning those images, because that's what a story is. When you're reading a story, it's a connection of different images, right? And so that's what that exercise with the presidents is so helpful for doing. Now, we're going to look at some other things tonight that are going to be helpful for that. Another key component with comprehension we can't ever forget is vocabulary. And I may have mentioned to y'all, and I just want to reiterate this again, when I was teaching at the American School in Lyon in France and had all my international students, and would say, if ever I'm teaching and I say something that you can't get a picture, raise your hand. So whenever you're reading and there's a word that you don't know, it's absolutely okay to let somebody know if they're, and keep in mind as adults that we do that too. Usually what our children are reading are things that the vocabulary is easy for us, so to speak, but we forget that if you all picked up one of my favorite neuroscience books, okay, or you pick up the Puritan writers, or you pick up the original of Beowulf, or even Shakespeare, right? And you're sitting there trying to comprehend everything. Now, also keep in mind that there's a big difference in comprehension depending on what you're reading, right? There are some things that are a lot easier for us to comprehend. Maybe it's something we're familiar with, and I want to talk about this with testing, because a lot of kids with learning challenges, you may see some real sporadic comprehension testing, and that was true for Clayton. One time we went in for some refresher testing to see where he was at, and he scored a 75% on the college level, but he only scored a 25% on the 5th grade level. And so when the tester was going over the exam and the scores with me, she's like, well, I'm not sure why this big discrepancy. And I said, can I just see the passages? And when I looked at the passages, what was in that 5th grade passage was something he had no exposure to. And what was actually in the college passage was something he was very familiar with. Okay, so sometimes we can get tricked if we see a lot of inconsistencies in some comprehension testing. Now, you've got some students that after you'll read something, they may not, even if it's something they were familiar with, they may actually answer from their experience rather than from what's in the passage. Okay? So a lot of kids on the spectrum have these amazing visual memories, and they can tell you where they've been, what hotel they stayed at, what the room number was, what everybody ordered. And so once they see an image, it is locked in forever for a lot of students. However, when they're reading something, the ability to create images can be very challenging. And so if you're doing the presidents that we looked at, if you're doing your stair cards, and you've been doing those a month, and you're still not seeing that increase in the reading comprehension, they're still not making movies in their head, I'm going to ask you to go one step deeper is what I'll call it. And that will be getting a bag. Okay, you just need a brown paper bag, a box, anything. And what I see you doing is putting an object in here. Okay? And then letting them put both hands in, and they get to feel the object. And they can describe it to you. And then you can have a sheet of paper and ask them to draw what they're seeing. Okay, so they're getting to touch it. And it's not, please know, it's not that it's going to work that first time you do it. Okay? But putting those things in there. I've got something like an eraser in here. I will say, be careful with things that are edible, and please nothing sharp, okay? You may even put some letters, you may have some letter pieces or number pieces that would work well, some different shapes. I mean, y'all can be very creative with that, but that is going a little bit deeper. So do that for me as well. Today, I actually had a message from one of my therapists who is trained in equipping minds, and we have trained hundreds, if not thousands, of people in parts of the program. And then there are the people who come and get certified, and this gal is up in Virginia, and I love this about my job because I'll get these amazing text messages, and she had been talking to me about a little girl, and she just updated me about how she's doing, and she's just amazing, her mom and I. And then she said, another student has 20 hours in. He told me it is already helping him in his reading class on Shakespeare. He has gone from being discouraged about learning difficult material to looking to them as challenges he can master. And that just made my heart smile. So keep in mind that when we are working on creating neuropathways, connecting neuropathways, strengthening neuropathways, that I think for those of y'all who are still with us and you're on week 6, you're seeing that it's hard work. It is hard work. And I'll just keep saying, go back and read Clayton's story, please. We were not in and done. You will have students, adults, who that will be the case. Or after 20 hours, they're already, comprehending Shakespeare and looking forward to that. But then you're also going to have students who this is going to be something you're going to do for a lifetime. And I really hope that this is something that all of y'all put in to keep doing and being aware of, because we are all one accident short from having a traumatic brain injury. A car wreck, a bike wreck, so many different things, a concussion. And concussions happen from sports to horseback riding to just horsing around the house, okay? So, and you don't have to be unconscious. So I will say, if you start seeing some sensitivity to light or mood swings or difficulty with their energy level, they're getting fatigued. They may even appear to all of a sudden have ADD, depression, some anxiety, that those can be symptoms of post-concussion syndrome. So it is very broad. We've worked with many people that have been 5 months out, or they've been 5 years out, or one was 15 years out. And his wife got trained in our program and did it with her husband every day. And he will say in his testimonies on our website that he's back to his old self after 15 years. 15 years. So don't ever give up hope with any of that. And we're going to look at one thing I wanted to talk about, and some of y'all are great at making modifications. When we were looking at these pictures, please know that if this is too much in the picture for someone you're working with, then you can take either simpler pictures or just isolate a part of the picture. Does that make sense? Just look at maybe the boy in the basket and cover up everything else, and then gradually add depending on your student. So you can absolutely make those modifications. The other thing, and I did put this up here for y'all, but I could have asked you tonight to tell me what you remember seeing in the picture. And then even if you wanted to draw it. And then you're seeing how someone would put it in the picture. So that was courtesy of one of my students who he said, well, Miss Carroll, if you want to see what I can see in my mind, just ask me to draw it. I was like, well, okay, fine. Go ahead and draw it. And that was a fun way for him to show that to me. So wanted to hit on those. You're going to see on our website test scores, reading comprehension scores increasing. I will say one of the things, and today here in the United States, there's been a lot of, even more so, on testing and how parents wanting their students to do well on testing. And we'll go to all kinds of links to see that their scores are where they need to be to maybe get into a particular college or something. And then if you have heard any of Sir Ken Robinson's talks, he has the #1 watched TED Talk. It was first out in 2006 and continues to talk about how our obsession with testing is stifling the creativity of our students, the critical thinking of our students, even the teaching and the learning. It's not, the teachers are just doing what they're told to do, but the emphasis on so much testing is really impacting. It's kind of ironic that people were talking about the importance of children playing, of all things. And for those of us in our 50s, and maybe some of y'all that are older and younger, you know, you remember being outside playing all day and riding your bike and playing hide and go seek and kick the can and everything in the neighborhood, and writing plays to perform and so many things, and building forts. And one book even came out called The Genius of Natural Childhood, basically saying, read to your children, let them get outside and play, and the importance of that in building creativity. Because one thing that continues to come out is, and you can thank Mike Rowe for that, the one side, that we have all these skilled jobs that we need people to go to trade for electricians and plumbers and carpentry and so many things that we will never be outsourcing. We will need a physical person to come to our home and do those jobs that are so crucial. And that many times people are getting degrees in college right now that they're not being able to use. And our world is changing so quickly. And so that's why I will always talk about that your cognitive skills, your cognitive abilities to process information, to hold on to information, multiple pieces for your working memory, to retrieve knowledge from your long-term memory, to think about the present situation, to make a good decision, is applicable in whatever job, whatever you do in your life. You cannot get from leaving this building or getting to the next place without having to process and think, oh, why did I go into this room? What did I go in there for, right? So many things. And so building those cognitive abilities will mean that if your job changes, that then they're giving you something new. You'll be able to read it, comprehend it, and apply it. Okay, and so as we're strengthening those cognitive abilities, the importance of that. So just keep that in mind for me. It's one of our favorite things. We're going to look at an amazing video, a couple amazing videos tonight. And I am trusting that if you are watching this, this is a series. So we are, as you heard me say, on week 6. And so some of the things that we are talking about tonight with some symbols and different things we're going to look at, we went over in the previous evening. Okay? So keep that in mind if you're just jumping in tonight. But I want to show you a couple things, and one is a couple other ways to build comprehension. And I'm actually going to go to our YouTube channel so y'all can see this. And when you just put in Equipping Minds, you're going to see last week's, and I will tell you if you click here, because some folks had asked, you'll be able to see the talk, but if you come down here, you're going to see the description of Aristotle's 10 categories of being. You see this? So here you have the 10 categories. They're going to be right there. They're not going anywhere. And some questions that you can ask for that. Now, one of our other videos that we're going to look at, and we'll go on the channel. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do that. We love to put things. Okay, so your blink cards. You have your blink cards. And one thing that we had started doing for some students, remember last week I told you to look at a card and to say like 2 red moons and say all 3 things. Well, we've also had students memorize this deck. And we have big guys here in the room right now, but they started with 1 card and kept building. And so I'm going to show you a clip, and I will tell you this is a student who then the parent saw a really big jump in her daughter's comprehension, because here she was holding on to a series of 5 yellow triangles, 2 red moons, okay? So I've got to show this to y'all tonight. We're not going to watch the whole thing, but it's only 2 minutes.
4 brown Bibles, 3 yellow doves, 2 red crosses, 5 green churches, 1 gray fish, 5 blue Bibles, 4 brown Bibles, 2 brown chalices, 1 yellow church, 5 red doves, 4 green fish, 3 gray Bibles, 4 brown crosses, 4 red churches, 2 yellow fish, 4 gray chalices, 1 brown dove, 5 red fish, 1 blue cross, 2 green churches, 5 yellow chalices, 4 gray doves, 3 red churches, 2 brown Bibles, 3 blue fish, 1 yellow Bible, 2 gray crosses, 2 green doves, 5 brown churches.
Okay, I'm
blue
gonna,
dove.
I'll stop there, but y'all, she keeps going, okay? And so she has memorized these in order. And the way that they did it is the way we memorize anything in life, 1 step at a time. Just how we did. I see you drawing a circle around the bear. Then I see you drawing a box around the snake. And we keep building. And so they started with 1 card. And the next day they went back over the first card and added a second card and kept going. And so we have had students who should not have been able to get through the entire deck, but they do. And you saw her mom just patiently waiting, and you saw her thinking. You also see she is wearing her sound therapy. So she has her music, classical music, that's working on stimulating all those systems simultaneously as she's doing this. And you're watching her stopping and thinking, and she's not getting frustrated, is she? She is stopping and thinking, and she kept going. So you could watch that entire thing. It's just an amazing, amazing thing that we also saw that build to increasing that comprehension. And you're just going to find, I loved, at one point we got to work with 4 nurses. And when our center was in Danville, Kentucky, we had some professional office space, and the hospital was across the street, and 4 nurses came over every day at lunchtime, and they worked for an hour. And we just saw some exciting things happen there. And one of them, she was very faithful with this and continues to be. And I might get a text message, and she'll say, Carol, I was in a meeting and I needed a grant number, and it was down in my office, and I remembered it, and it was 9 digits. And she said, I've never been able, and she was in her 60s. And she said, I've never been able to. But we hadn't practiced those numbers, so to speak, but with everything that we do, it was impacting that. So another way that we do this, taking one item, is we're going to look back on the Roses program for just a minute. And that's where we go to the intervention compass. And as you've heard me say, we work with students one-on-one, and you're going to get to see a session of myself with a student. And we are able to, we let parents observe sessions when we're working with students so that they can learn how to use this, and which is always very exciting for us. But I love that I get to go to, I'll be in France tomorrow, and I could be in Germany, or I'll be talking to a family in Saudi Arabia, or, just all over, but get to still stay in Kentucky, which is fabulous. And so here on the Roses program, this is another one of our programs where you can go in, and this is my alias, my middle name and maiden name, and you can actually watch our professional development training that we do for schools. It's right here. And then each of our different games are here. Well, one of our games that I'm going to show you is Let's Match. And one of the first things is we were talking about students seeing what you're doing.
Hello, I see you now going to your 6 grid board. And we're going to start with 3 items. And so I'm going to see myself putting the red cube down, and then the blue cube, and then I see the black cube.
So on
Ashley,
this one,
can
we're
you match
seeing if
what
the
you see?
student can actually match what they're seeing.
Excellent. And we have a match. Now, if that was challenging, I would also look and say, now I see the black cube moving. Ashley, can you match what you see? There we go. Now I see the red cube moving. And can you match what you see? Now I see the red and blue cube moving. Can you match what you see? Okay, now Ashley. nicely done with those.
Okay, and so that's just a preliminary exercise called Let's Match. And that's making sure before you see the next one on how we do this, because I need to know if we're seeing the same thing. Now, you have in your handouts some tic-tac-toe boards. You don't know they're tic-tac-toe boards. We're going to get to learn how to play them next week, but you could, for what we just saw, you could do it on this blank board that you have in your handouts. Okay? And if you're watching on this week, you'll see the handout on the Equipping Minds website and under the shop, and you'll see this Equipping Minds to Reach Their Full Potential and the games. So you can do it on the blank one. Now we're going to look at doing it on the numbers. And what I have learned is some students do better if we're doing it with numbers, or you could do it with the animal page as well, okay? But I've got to show you this because remember what we talked about earlier about students needing creativity, the importance of play, and I will tell you, Equipping Minds we approach it very playfully. We're doing games. We make it very fun, so to speak. And it's amazing to me that when we start seeing creativity happen, and you're going to get to see this. So I'm going to close this, and we are going to go to extreme memory right now, and this also builds comprehension.
Okay, we are now going to do 8 items on the 9 grid board. Okay, so these numbers are all really covered up. And these are all just turned in the center on this one, but we are using 8 items.
Now, we would never start with 8.
Oh my goodness. Are you kidding me?
Take your time. Tell me when you have your picture.
And she's taking her picture. She's taking her time. There are 8 things she's looking at. And she is 9 years old.
I have it.
So she's in a
You
whole
have
different
it?
location.
Okay, now I'm hiding it right there. And if you're there with your student, just cover it up.
So she can't see it. There are no tricks to this. This is her taking a picture in her mind.
Okay, do we have a match?
Yes.
We do. Nicely done.
Miss Carol, can I do one for you?
Oh, can you do one for me? Okay, you can do one for me. I might be in trouble.
This is why I love my job. Remember the word creativity?
Oh, wait a minute. They're on 2 different boards. You are so tricky. Oh, okay. 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 Huh. You just took this to a whole other level, ma'am. Okay, so I gotta get.
Well, I did those in makeup color order.
So we've got all 9, so I have to get out the pink. Okay. Okay, I need a minute on this one. I am stopping and thinking about what you just did.
So you're getting to see me put on the
Yes, you
spot
did.
by a
Okay, hold
student.
on. So I'm going to get my picture in my mind.
We're using Unifix cubes.
Okay, top board. Okay.
And I'm taking my turn.
Okay. Go ahead and hide it.
And
Okay. So,
and the fun thing is when I'm working with a student, I'm always needing to do it upside down. So I'm really good at reading and doing things upside down.
okay, let's check. Blue, brown, white. I got it. I got it.
I could totally do that. I could do that with 2 boards.
You could do it with 2 boards? Okay, you ready to try it with 2 boards? Okay.
Okay, so she has never done this before. Do
Okay,
you
we're doing
see-
extreme memory, by the
Do
way.
you see that enthusiasm?
Yes, she is giving this a whole other meaning, which should surprise nobody who might know her. Okay. I'm actually going to think of it a little differently. Okay.
So this is a lot to hold on to, isn't it? But this is another way in to build comprehension, because you're also visualizing the numbers and the colors, and they're on 2 different boards. Now, y'all, this is not where we start, but I need to.
Can I ask you if you can definitely tell what is red and what is orange?
Yes, orange is on the 9 top board and red is on the 1 top board.
Okay. I just want.
Got it.
You've got it?
Right. Yes.
And we would
Okay.
always start,
Everyone watching, she's got it.
and we would always start with 1 item and then move to 2 items and then 3. But I needed you all to see what was possible on this.
And do we have a match?
We always say, do we have a match?
Yes, we do. Oh my word. Okay. Yes, you did tell me you could do it. Okay, that was fun and sane. That is just so for those of y'all who are watching from home. This is not a trick. Nothing has been changed to in any way. There is no, cheating going on whatsoever. This is we just found a great gift, and doing it on 2 boards, and somebody could probably take this to 18 items on a 2-grid board, but we are not going there today. But excellent job, and thank you for pushing yourself on this one and taking this to a whole other level. Well done.
Thank you.
Okay, that was one of my all-time favorite days. I love when I get to see my students invent another level to equipping minds, and we get to see that, y'all, all the time. We are going to have to stop there tonight. There is, we're going to look next week where you're actually going to get to see how we do that with using our symbols. We'll be looking at how we'll use our colored cubes, but then we'll, instead of matching the colors, you're going to put down the number that matches the color. You're going to put down the animal that matches the color. You're going to put down the president that matches the color. You're going to put down the vowel that matches the color, or the letter that matches the color. So it's called extreme memory, but tonight we could have called it extreme memory. But that ability to see images, and you can use cubes and numbers and pictures and letters, and you saw that joy in her face and her taking it to 2 words. I mean, that was real life that you got to see me working with a student. I will always still have a client base that I work with personally. I've got a team of therapists, and we've got people we've trained all over the world. But it's continuing to keep my own clients as well that keeps Equipping Minds dynamic. And we're able to put videos up here on, this is our Roses program, our recorded online sessions. So you get to see my work with students, and so excited for that. So please start with one item, okay, and gradually move up, and you can use any of these different boards. And that you saw when we covered it up, we said take a picture in your mind. Let me know when you have your picture. Okay. And then when we lift it up, we always say, do we have a match? And then I want to know, and if we don't, let's say the student made an error, then I would just say, oh, fix it so it matches. And I want them to fix it because I need to know if they see it. I know what I see. I need to know if they see it, okay? And then I'll say, okay, nicely done. And then, as you saw, when she said, Miss Carol, can I do one for you? Well, I always like to tell you to take turns with your students. I will say that what schools have done is they'll have the teacher at the head of the desk, and maybe the students will have little dividers between each other. And they're looking at the teacher, and then they're making theirs, and then checking. So super, that idea to a whole other level, but we will bridge it to everything we've already done. We do that game, and we bridge it to the animals, to the numbers, to the letters, to the presidents, to the symbols, to your colors. It's another place. So you're really building visual processing, visual spatial reasoning, working memory, long-term memory retrieval, comprehension, so many things there. And I promise you, it's going to then generalize to your life. And if you wanted to do it with yourself, you could create a board, cover it up with a napkin, okay? Walk away, take a picture, and then see if you can recreate it. So great job tonight. I'm so glad I got to share that with y'all. Everyone work on those things for me this week, and I look forward to seeing everybody next week.